Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Philtastic Comics and Art. I'm your host, Philtasticphil. I want to welcome you to my show, and thanks to everybody who liked and subscribed and commented on the first episode. Your support really means a lot to me. Our second episode, is on Wanda Vision. Now, I know this is probably the most talked about television show going on right now, and there's probably about 1 billion in different videos on this, so this is going to be 1 billion and one. I have a couple unique takes that I really haven't seen many people talk about. I wanted to point out. Before we get into it, I'm going to give a nice shout out to my beautiful wife who's upstairs. How you doing, honey? My dad and my stepmom. How you guys doing? And of course, my mom again. My mom. I asked her, did you watch the first episode? I just put it up, my new YouTube channel. She said, I saw it, but I didn't listen to it. So I was like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, I saw that you put something up, but I didn't watch yet. So in honor of my mom, the unofficial second title of this show will be Seen But Not Heard. And, I'm sure she'll check this out. And thanks, Mom. I appreciate you. Some other quick shout outs. Mighty Moose Comics, located in the Factoria Mall that's in the Seattle area. I've never been to Mighty Moose. Why am I plugging them away? Again, the people I plug, by the way, don't ask for shout outs, nor did they particularly need it. And I certainly don't get paid for it. These are just people I appreciate and just want to say thank you. And, if you have the time or the energy, go ahead and check these people out. Mighty Moose is run by the original owner, founder, I guess you could say, and operator of my local comic book store, the one I frequent, Fat Moose Comics and Games. He's often moved to the West Coast. And actually, this kind of mascot, he kind of actually looks like Elon, the owner. Not so much in the biceps or the chest, or the antlers. And he's not a moose, he's a man. I would say it's definitely in the eyes and the smile. So if you're in the Factoria area, or if you have a chance to go online, go in, say hi to Elon, and tell him Phil said hello. Next one is a Instagram friend of mine who's been following me for a while. He's recently started his own Instagram page called you.mamas.stuff. I love that name. That's great. This is a online antique kind of claim store, for lack of a better description. And I thought this was really cool, and this is why I really thought I should promote it. He's actually running an event this coming Sunday, the 28th, in the Hialeah area. And if you go to this event, it's like a flea market and some other shenanigans, as they say, going on. If you bring a donation of dog or cat food, they're going to bring that to a local animal shelter. And I think that was really good. So for more information, go ahead and check out you.mamas.stuff, and that's on Instagram. The next shout out is David from 90 Day Fiancé. 90 Day Fiancé, if you don't know, is a very popular television show, on the Discovery Channel. My wife and I watch it every week, and I do mean every week. David and his wife Annie are one of our favorite couples. For my wife's birthday this past summer, I had purchased a cameo session from David and Annie, and they were really nice. And actually, David started following me on Instagram, gives me a lot of good thumbs up and likes and whatnot. And just wanted to say, hey, David, thank you very much for the follow and the likes. I appreciate you. Next, finally, I should say, one of my very good friends from college. This May, don't tell anybody, this May is going to be like 20 years since I graduated from college. That's a little scary. So I've known this guy for over 20 years. This guy in the lower right-hand corner, Soda Pop Curtis. Insider secret, that's not his real name. He's going to be hosting a punk rock show, streaming it, I should say, and performing on the 26th, this Friday at 8 p.m. After you've watched Wanda Vision, or before, whatever you want to do, go ahead and go to the NJ Pop Punk Facebook group, or go to the YouTube channel NJ PP Archives for Quarantunes Volume 9, which is a streaming punk rock show. And, look, we can't go out. We're still under restrictions here. You can't go to a live show. I was thinking about it. Even if you could go, how expensive is it to go to a concert? You can only watch so much Netflix. Why not just check out a free show? What have you got to lose? I should warn you, let me tell you even before I do that, how the idea for this particular episode came about. My buddy Sam, who is not somebody who watches a lot of comic book films or reads comics asked me about WandaVision because the show is huge. You can't escape it. Everybody's talking about it. I told him, hey, look, you're in luck because with Disney Plus, you can watch 2 little 15-minute episodes that'll give you some information before you jump into the series. He said, no, I want some more information. So I started talking to him a little bit more about the Marvel films and whatnot. And of course, like all of us, this is kind of how I sounded like. I think we've all been there. You know, there's so many different loops and turns, and especially with this show, it's very speculated on. There's been a couple things that have jumped out that I want to really kind of bring up. I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about. So this show is for Sam, and in fact, I want to let you guys, I want to let Sam know that you guys are watching this. So if you can, go ahead and go to Instagram. This is Sam's channel, his Instagram page rather, SM Heartpicks, and just tell him the name of your favorite Marvel-related show or your Marvel-related film, and use the hashtag SammyVision. Again, his Instagram page is SM Heartpicks, and use the hashtag SammyVision. Even if he doesn't check out the show, it's going to make me laugh if you guys just start bombarding him with this. All right, so WandaVision. Pretty much everybody says that this show is based on one particular Marvel storyline, the House of M. If you haven't checked out this story, by the way, it is a great story. Brian Michael Bendis, probably one of his best stories while he was on Avengers. I have to respectfully disagree because I think WandaVision has more to do with another less beloved and more recent story, Standoff, Welcome to Pleasant Hill. Now, I didn't own a whole lot of the Standoff issues. I had to look up the information on Marvel Unlimited. Great app, by the way. I do want to warn you, of course, I'm going to be using a lot of pictures and whatnot that have appeared in the Marvel comic. I don't own these. Marvel owns them. Disney owns Marvel. So please don't sue. I'm not making any profit from this. This is just out of the love for comics and art and whatnot. You know, and I think the worst part about getting sued by Disney, besides, of course, the prospect of financial ruin and stress, has got to be that every single time you get a letter from their lawyer, it's going to have the Mickey Mouse ears on them. That would drive me crazy. So if you're not familiar with Standoff, Welcome to Pleasant Hill, it circles around this town, quaint little town, not unlike Westview, called Pleasant Hill. Little do we know that it's got a deadly secret. Maybe not deadly, but a strange secret. The town is actually powered by this little girl by the name of Kubik. I might be mispronouncing that. I'm sure the internet will tell me if I'm wrong. And Kubik is actually the embodiment of the Cosmic Cube, also known in the MCU as the Mind Stone or the Terrasect, one of the infamous Infinity Stones. So again, Pleasant Hill, you've got this quaint little town, pretty similar to Westview, but underneath it are some of the biggest, I guess you could say, well, maybe not the biggest, these are more like B-level, Marvel villains. See, Pleasant Hill is actually a prison S.H.I.E.L.D. has created and basically mind-wiped all these villains. All these guys think that they're just regular town folk, you know, ice cream men, mailmen, milkmen, but they're really, you know, Baron Zemo and some of the other villains in the background here. So how does this connect to WandaVision more than House of M, again, in my opinion? And really, I think that some of the information I'm going to share with you tonight not only kind of cements this theory of mine, but also sets up WandaVision to be really the next springboard for the next phase of Marvel movies. I should say this too, that I don't pretend to know any more than I do. These are just my guesses. Don't use any of this as spec. Honestly, if you're looking to invest in comics right now, I wouldn't even look at WandaVision. It's almost over. Start looking at some of the films. Shang-Chi comes out in 5 months. Nobody's talking about that. Come on, go ahead and jump in. So, of course, Pleasant Hill ends with the new Avengers, the Uncanny Avengers, and the regular Avengers, as well as the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a couple other Marvel teams kind of jumping in and saving the day once the villains realize that, hey, we're not people, we're villains and we're stuck in a jail and we have to get out of here. Uh, like many big stories, it kind of suffered from too many parts. It wasn't one that I particularly enjoyed, to be honest with you. There are some great moments. I do enjoy the regular Avengers tie-in with it. I also enjoyed the Captain America, Sam Wilson kind of issues on this. But to each his own. I do have to say the standout issue for me, in fact the best issue of the series, it was just a one little pickup of Illuminati, which is a series I did not read. But reading this online, it focuses on Crusher Creel, the Absorbing Man, and his life both in and out of the Pleasant Hill Haze, I guess as you would call it. So, first way I want to point out is we've got this character that the story starts with. He kind of wakes up in Pleasant Hill and he's walking around and he runs into this force field. The force field, of course, is shaped just like the infamous Scarlet Witch hexes that have appeared all over Wanda Vision. By the way, and I'm going to expand more on this in a moment, have you noticed that the force field or the hexes, when they're outside of Westview on the show, are red and on the inside are blue? I'm going to tell you why I think that's the case in a few moments here. This guy, we later find out, by the way, is Baron Zemo. And, of course, he eventually comes to his senses and helps lead an uprising against Pleasant Hill and against S.H.I.E.L.D. We're going to see Baron Zemo soon, of course, in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you've seen the preview, you've seen this guy on the episode. In the preview, rather, in the commercial. Speaking of Falcon and Winter Soldier, there is another connection to WandaVision. I noticed on the Westview sign you have all those charity group pictures or logos here. One of them, I apologize, I couldn't get one that had the names clearly on them, but one of them you'll notice is a hand symbol. Where else have we seen a hand symbol? Well, going back to the Falcon and Winter Soldier preview, you see that the anarchist groups, known as the Flag Smashers, all have this handprint insignia on their masks. So, my theory are the citizens in Westview going to snap out of it and kind of rise up and become the Flag Smashers. That's one theory, but I have some other stuff to go on about with the residents. Before I do that, a couple quick details as far as Pleasant Hill goes that again connects it more to me, at least, in terms of this series. This is from the opening of Pleasant Hill, and you see that they're talking about the stones here, and they describe the stones as becoming self-aware sentient beings. Now, as you know, in the MCU, Vision became powered by the Mind Stone, and Scarlet Witch became powered by the Mind Stone after Hydra experimented on them. For this reason, I think that power is now flowing in their veins, in their bodies. And I think that they're almost kind of like their own smaller Infinity Stones. Some other things I have to back that up. If you remember when their sword is tracing the energy pattern of Vision, it looks like it's, of Wanda rather, it looks like it's the same energy signature as the stones. And also, if you recall from I believe it was the Halloween episode, as we got further away from Scarlet Witch, you saw that all of the people were kind of shut down. They were kind of like statues, kind of like if you have a cell phone that's out of range. But Vision was able to travel further, and that, to me, is evidence that Scarlet Witch hasn't willed Vision to life as we would have all thought with the House of M story. Now, instead, he's his own sentient being. I think he's really his own Infinity Stone, so to speak. And that might be a reason why S.W.O.R.D. wants him. This is a panel from the original West Coast Avengers that everybody's sharing, the original West Coast Avengers story, where Scarlet Witch and some of the other Avengers, and here I think it's Mockingbird, comes across the Vision's dismantled body. Now, I haven't read this particular issue. From the synopsis I've read online, his body was stolen by a group of rogue SHIELD agents. I think that this is exactly what's happening with Sword. I think the director is not Mephisto, as many have said. I think he is a Hydra or AIM agent. And I do think a lot of the residents in there are in on it, so to speak. They want Vision because they want a sentient weapon. Some further evidence. Everybody notices Dee Dee. You know, she was one of the prominent residents that we saw early on in the show. Her name is Dee Dee Wentworth. So I Googled the name. I don't know all the Marvel characters' names, but she is actually, in the comics at least, Superia. One of the bigger AIM villains, and AIM has been heavily teased in this show. Whether that's a tease or that's going to come to fruition is another story. And if you notice on a lot of the episodes, especially when they're Times Square, you see there's a store that says Wentworth's in it. So I think that's a direct connection here, and I think that she is an AIM agent at the very least. She definitely knows what's going on. I should also note that Superia has some ties to the Thunderbolts, and that's been one of the films or the series that's been talked about. Not as much as the ones that are on the schedule, of course, but we did hear that. Next, Phil Jones. He's not a Hydra guy. Really, in the Marvel comics, he's the husband of Arcana, who's a member of the Squadron Supreme. I think a good section of the residents are just kind of more teasers who can kind of lead us to either different dimensions or Marvel worlds or have something to do with magic. As you know, the Squadron Supreme is in a different Marvel universe. I don't know the number offhand, but I think that's a small teaser. Again, it might just be something to throw us off track. You don't know. Herb, he's one of my favorite of the residents. I think there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. Yeah, we saw him kind of go on autopilot, I guess you could say, in one of the prior episodes. But in this episode, it almost looked to me like he was directing kind of where Quicksilver was going to go or how he was going to act. He was kind of calling it before it happened. And what I'm going to tell you is nothing new. I know that there's a million pieces of spec on this, that Herb is the High Evolutionary, classic Marvel villain with connections to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I really don't think this is the case, but you never know. I do think that Wundagore Mountain may be in the may be part of the conclusion of the series. Just to kind of further my theory that they're kind of teasing alternate dimensions as well. Geraldine, you know, the name that Monica Rambeau took when she went into the Wanda Vision sphere into Westview. Of course, Geraldine has a reference to Captain Marvel, but Geraldine also has a reference to one other character in the Marvel Universe, Geraldine Romolo of the DP7, who really is in charge of going to different dimensions and different universes. Another connection that the Pleasant Hill storyline has to WandaVision, this is a pretty spot-on one. In one of the lesser-known books, the Howling Commandos, like this came out of the Monsters crossover, if I'm not mistaken. A section of Pleasant Hill is actually a circus, not unlike what we saw in the last episode. So a minor little connection there. Might be something, might be nothing. I just thought it'd be interesting to point out. The one kind of aspect of House of M I can't shake is, of course, the blinding light. This isn't a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. If you've read The House of M, you'll notice that at the beginning of the story, there's a big blinding light that transports Peter Parker into the House of M universe. In the scene right after the twins were born, or right before the twins were born, there's a big flash of light, and this is the only connection I could make. So I don't know if that means that we're going into a different dimension, a different universe, or this is just kind of a wink on the director's part, but I wanted to note that. There are some characters that have been referenced that we haven't seen yet. Agnes, okay, look, everybody knows Agnes Harkness by now, but there hasn't been a whole lot of mention about her son, Nicholas Scratch. I think that there have been small mentions, Senior Scratch, the bunny and whatnot. I think he's kind of pivotal to this, because I think that while AIM wants Vision for his parts and whatnot, Agnes definitely wants Wanda for her power. And what would the reason be? I think part of it is I don't think that Scratch is a bunny rabbit right now on his own accord, nor do I think he's Quicksilver. I think Scratch is trapped in the body of the bunny. Uh, some of the classic Marvel comics go into it where Scratch kind of worked more with Dormammu more than Mephisto. And as you know, some of these bigger magical characters that are in the Marvel Universe kind of don't get along, but they have some rough rules. So I think that a possible story might be Scratch kind of got on Mephisto's bad side and is cursed into the form of this bunny. Mephisto, I think, is definitely going to appear. Again, there's just been too many indicators to this, and in fact, I think we have already seen him. The Crane, I think, is 100% Mephisto, and I do think that her children are also part of Mephisto, just as they were in the story. Why do I say this? If you recall, Wanda tried to use her magic on the Crane when she first saw it, and she couldn't. The Crane pops up so far when Wanda's children are born, and also in the most recent episode, as you know, it's clear that she's losing power. So this Crane is not powered by Wanda. In fact, she can't even affect it. Mephisto has to be the reason. He's much more powerful. He's got stronger magic. Her powers aren't going to affect his. And that's the same reason, by the way, her powers didn't work on the children. And for that reason, by the way, too, I didn't get into too much of it. Quicksilver is not Mephisto. I know that that's been a theory because in the Halloween episode, if you recall, towards the end, Wanda was able to use her powers on her brother and send him flying across the square. In fact, keeping in mind that every time Quicksilver's spoken, he hasn't really spoken anything about the Fox Marvel Universe or whatnot. I don't think that he's coming over from an alternate universe. I think he's actually Agnes in disguise. If you also notice, we have not seen Agnes and Quicksilver on the same at the same time on the screen at the same time. I do think the astrophysicist is none other than Jane Foster, Natalie Portman in the Thor films. As you may know, in the comics, she's a nurse, but in the Thor movies and the Thor films, she is an astrophysicist. I don't think we're going to see Reed Richards yet. It just doesn't make sense. It'd be kind of an awkward position. If you recall, too, Kevin Feige originally had it where Captain Marvel was going to appear at the end of Age of Ultron, and he pulled it, saying, you know what, we need to give characters a proper introduction. We can't just drop them off. And I doubt they would do the same thing with Reed Richards. I do think that we're going to see her children, where I know that the end of this series has been kind of teased as sorrowful, and I think her children are going to disappear, but only to reappear again in Young Avengers. And my personal opinion, I think that this is going to set up in the next Doctor Strange film, similar to something like the Avengers story, the Children's Crusade, where Wanda, I think, disappears into parts of Europe, Wundagora and Latveria. I don't think they'd bring Doctor Doom in that early, but I think that you will see the twins again in the Doctor Strange film. Again, just to end it, this is a little piece of artwork I did recently at the beginning of the Wanda Vision series with my predictions. You had AIM agents surrounding Vision and Scarlet Witch with her children, of course. These are the predictions I've had. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do so on my Instagram channels at Philtastic_artwork, at Ruiz of the Day, that's my Carl Ruiz tribute page, or you can email me now at philtasticscomicsandart.com. Philtasticcomicsandart@gmail.com. Again, that's philtasticcomicsandart@gmail.com. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight and for letting me babble on for a little bit. I hope to see you soon, and of course, I hope to see what your thoughts are on WandaVision. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and do me a big favor, share this video with your friends. Thanks, and have a great night.